you know Elon Musk runs $6 billion companies? And Jeff Bezos leads about 10 companies at any one time. And Mark Zuckerberg has 94 companies underneath him at Meta. Now, you might think that leaders like this are exceptional at time management, but nothing could be further from the truth. See, these billionaires follow the same 4-step system that elite athletes use. And anyone can apply this, whether you're a small business owner, a student, or a CEO of a startup. This process has changed my life, my client's life, and I know it will change your life too. So here's how you can achieve your vision by working less. Step 1 is strategic framing. I'm sure you've heard of the concept of getting 1% better every day. Well, you should do everything possible to ignore this, at least until you've reached the top of your game. It's an illusion, and it will harm your ability to perform to your potential. The idea is this: small, consistent improvements over time will amount to something large. This graph shows you that over the course of 1 year, by improving 1% each day, you'll end up 37 times better to where you started. Now that sounds nice, but there's 3 main issues with this flawed way of thinking. The first is that people tend to justify small and slow progress towards a goal inside this system. 1% improvement is actually hard to quantify unless you have detailed analytics. It's certainly impossible to recognize on the surface. So you can't step into your potential by aiming for 1% improvement, especially as you rise up through the ranks of business or sport. The second issue is that not all improvements are equal. This is a very important point to understand. You'll never run out of things to do. Hypothetically, you could spend all of your time every day making 1% improvement. However, true success comes from the growth model improvements, the breakthroughs, the large obvious improvements in a very specific part of your growth model. Let's take Elon, for example. If Elon improved the existing transportation system, as we know it, through incremental change, he would just have a very good petrol car company. But he didn't take that approach. He 100% improved the one part of the model that needed to be changed: the engine. This was the model breakthrough. And this is only possible when you consider the final reason here why I'm against the 1% improvement model. It encourages you to spread your frame of thinking. The best athletes and the business billionaires, they don't try to be great at everything. They break down their growth model into a few core growth pillars, and they perform exceptionally well across those pillars. You can do this too. And this will lead to 100% improvement in your growth model. Doing this will require you to stop, though, the things in your day that you're doing that are unimportant to this stage of growth. This is the unspoken requirement of strategy framing. Remember, the athlete and the business billionaires, they know how to focus because they have a frame for what good looks like. So this strategy forces them to find the largest improvements. 1% improvement, again, won't get you to where you want to go. It will just help you maintain your position at the top when you get there. So let's go to part 2, performance alignment. In the first step, we discussed what to do. This step is about how to do it effectively. And it hinges on mastering the art of performance alignment. Bill Gates was famous for taking think weeks. This was a 3-week retreat to a scheduled location where you'd read, think, and align on performance for 3 weeks.
Bill started to take think weeks back in the 90s when he was still running Microsoft. He would travel to Hood Canal and spend 1 week there alone, reading and thinking.
This was crucial in shaping his ability to lead Microsoft and many other ventures at the time. But you don't have to go to that level of extremity. You don't need to disappear off the face of the planet to implement performance alignment. Jeff Bezos schedules all his important meetings in the morning when he's most focused. He does this in an isolated environment, and he's able to attack the conversations he is best at with undivided attention.
I get up early, just naturally. I like a crisp document and a messy meeting. I'll feel better in about 4 hours if I do it now. I'll have more energy for the rest of my day, and so on and so on.
Performance alignment is really just knowing the pillars of growth you must lean on to perform and establishing a consistent protocol to achieve momentum in those areas. It is easier said than done. Performance is a habit. Need to embrace that. You'll need to build a commitment to do this deep work. So you can start by doing 3 quick steps. First, start with the fundamentals, your calendar. Begin with blocking off a small amount of time in your calendar that you can commit to for a very specific progress pillar in your company. Now, I want you to think of this like you've just been accepted into a professional sports team. And that sports team has specific days they train, non-negotiable days. Don't rock up to those trainings, you are financially fined, and you are letting your team down. Commit to your calendar at this level. That's the level of commitment progress requires. So when it's in the calendar, now you need to have one clear objective for the deep work in that session. Don't make the mistake of what most people do and have multiple goals or multiple tasks in a deep work session. That's not deep work. It becomes deep procrastination. You need focus on one clear objective, and that objective needs to move the needle of progress in your world. Otherwise, it's deep procrastination. And you round this out by building a performance mindset. Most of us put things in our calendar and we fail to honor them. I want you to show up to this part of your calendar not as your typical self. If you have your birthday in the calendar for 7 p.m., you're going out for dinner with your partner, you are looking forward to that 7 p.m. and you're showing up with a smile on your face, aren't you? That's a level of performance mindset that your calendar needs for these progress pillars. Deep work is the same concept. You need to find the energy and align it to the work. So once these habits are ingrained, this becomes your unfair advantage. However, before you become highly effective at these first 2 steps, there's a beast you're going to need to slay. And this is one you've already met. Procrastination. Step 3 is execution focus. And execution focus is the opposite of procrastination. The real reason procrastination occurs is not because of what the health experts and influencers are saying or convincing you online. If you're like most people, procrastination is the single most prominent issue, preventing you from achieving your goals. But it shouldn't be. And here's exactly how to end it. For example, if you have a health issue and you know you need to start exercising to get healthier, the problem might be now that exercising might feel like a big commitment. Now, this level of thinking is going to stop you from starting because the part of your brain that controls your emotional and behavioral response is called your amygdala, and it doesn't know how to process an aligned action to a goal. Procrastination is this: when you cannot connect your goal to something you can do within the next 10 minutes. That's all it is. It's your body lacking a well-structured growth system. So if you think you can't start working on your goal right now, you won't. You'll only think about it. And look, many people these days convince themselves that thinking is the work, and they feel tired, and often more so tired, through just thinking. So what can we do to stop procrastination? Well, to kill procrastination, go back to your growth model. Learn the foundations of what good looks like. The billionaires know what good looks like. The elite athletes know what good looks like. You must get clear on what good looks like so that then you can get clear on what is today. Next, you need to know your current level of fitness. You need to break that down into what is true about your position for growth today. What is good? Where are you now? Now you have a list of outcomes that you can break down into tasks, and execution focus is creating an environment for the body to always be clear on the next task, so it becomes impossible to procrastinate. So before we go on to the final part and most important step of this entire video, let's have a quick recap on how we got here. Now, you should have a strategic frame for what good looks like. It's your growth model. Have a clear performance on alignment on how to get there. And this now creates the environment for you to have execution focus. The hardest part of all is part 4 of this system. It's actually understanding how to do all of that consistently without fail. Step 4 is performance sustainability. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. That was a quote directly from Albert Einstein. And it's taken me 40 years to understand this. We discussed misinterpretation of this phenomenon in step 1, but here's how you should actually view it. Let's use an example, a monetary example, because it's easy. And then we'll relate this to business and sport. Let's say you invest $1,000 in a stock, you get an 8% return every year. The first year, your money grows to $1,080. By the next year, you're not just earning 8% on the original $1,000, but also on the $80 profit. So now you're at $1,166. This keeps happening year after year. Things grow faster. At 20 years, your $1,000 would have grown into $4,660. Not bad, hey? In 40 years, double that, and now your money is at $21,725. And if you leave it for 60 years, it would reach an incredible $101,257. That's over 100 times where you started. Now, this concept doesn't just apply to investing. It's a power law that billionaires and athletes use to change the game entirely. The game of sustainability is hard. Why? Because of burnout. Burnout is the biggest inhibitor of most people's dreams and the most misunderstood concept in business, in my opinion. So what actually causes burnout and how can you avoid it? Well, burnout is just nothing more than being stuck in a system for a prolonged period of time that's not giving you the result you want. So when your system for performance doesn't work for you, it can create this extreme or prolonged anxiety and it can feel inescapable. That's really what we know to be burnout. Burnout isn't working long hours. It's when the system doesn't serve you any longer. 2 ways to fix burnout. You can change your strategic frame of growth, or you can change the execution focus within that frame. They're the only 2 ways to avoid burnout. So this 4-step system will help you avoid burnout because it by definition forces you to constantly frame, constantly align, and constantly create the environment for focus. And that's what's required for performance sustainability. This is the 4-step system that billionaires use to play the game at a totally different level, the same way professional athletes do, but you can implement it yourself and it will work wonders for you. I absolutely promise that. And if you're a founder or CEO struggling with growth or productivity, let's talk. You can reach out using the link in my description.